The Zurati war fleet arrived above Earth with all the subtlety of a thunderclap across a quiet valley, blotting out half the night sky with metallic wings forged for intimidation. Citizens from New York to Nairobi stumbled outside, phones raised, streaming everything in wide-eyed disbelief. Children pointed. News anchors panicked. Teenagers began rating the alien ships like they were reviewing a summer blockbuster. Within minutes, memes circulated so fast the Zurati censors mistook the traffic for a coordinated communications attack. No one on Earth screamed, "Not really." Humanity had faced too much: ice ages, wars, politicians, and cheap airline baggage fees. This was simply Tuesday. At 5:12 Universal Time Coordinated, the Zurati issued their ultimatum. Their speaker's voice, deep, insectal, vibrating like a cracked drum, echoed across Earth's skies through projected translation arrays. "Humans of Terra," it boomed, "surrender your war capabilities and yield authority to the Empire. Resist, and we shall reduce your world to dust." The speech was supposed to paralyze planetary morale. Instead, people argued about the translation quality. A linguistic professor tweeted, "Dust? Really? Seems unoriginal." Somewhere in California, a man yelled that he had work in the morning and demanded they wrap it up. Inside the United Earth Defense Network headquarters, technicians sat in stunned silence, waiting for someone in command to speak. But the only reply Earth sent, after a full 20 seconds of awkward buffering, was, "Please hold. Connecting you to Captain Mara Quinn." The alien council blinked, some with eyelids moving sideways, some with none at all. Empires usually heard responses like "We surrender," or "Please spare our children." Never "Please hold." Captain Mara Quinn walked the command corridor, as though she were strolling into an afternoon coffee shop. At 31, she carried an aura of gentle warmth that fooled every species the first time they met her. She held a steaming mug with the words "World's okayest captain" across the side, a gift from a sarcastic crewmate she'd kept because it made her smile. Her eyes, calm gray, almost soft, belied the mind beneath. A tactician so precise she once calculated missile trajectories during a blackout using only chalk and a wall. As the ultimatum replayed on a central screen, she tilted her head the way a librarian might examine a messy shelf. "Well," she murmured, "that's dramatic." Her crew watched her expectantly. Some were nervous, a few were excited. Lieutenant Harper whispered, "Ma'am, they're waiting." Mara set her mug down with delicate care, as if placing a bookmark before finishing a favorite chapter. "All right," she breathed, smoothing her uniform. "Let's say hello." Her image appeared before the Zurati Council, projected into their war chamber like a polite ghost. Mara smiled with the soft kindness of a teacher meeting new students. "Good morning," she said pleasantly. "Captain Mara Quinn, representing Earth. Thank you for your message." The council stiffened in synchronized confusion. The speaker clicked his mandibles. "Did you comprehend our warning?" Mara nodded warmly. "Oh, absolutely. Very clear. However," she paused, as though choosing the friendliest possible phrasing, "we decline your request. Respectfully. Also, we will attack." The stunned silence that followed was so absolute a pin dropping on Pluto would have felt loud. Several council members whispered frantically. One demanded his translator be checked. Another muttered ancient curses. A Varnathi advisor slumped back in his floating chair and groaned. "They said it casually." "Why do they say such things casually?" Mara continued smiling, as if unaware she'd just threatened a multi-system empire before breakfast. Back on Earth, Harper mouthed, "Oh boy." Commander Ruiz rubbed his temples. "She's doing it again." "Doing what?" asked a rookie technician. "Being nice," Ruiz replied grimly. "And that's when the galaxy should worry." Mara clasped her hands and leaned slightly closer to the projection. "To clarify," she added kindly, "Earth has no intention of surrendering, but we do appreciate your initiative." The Zurati speaker snarled, mandibles trembling. "Your species is known for emotional instability and primitive warfare. You cannot oppose us." Mara's smile remained, but her eyes sharpened a degree, subtle, like the temperature dropping before a storm. We do our best, she said. Humans are quite motivated under pressure. An old, nearly forgotten species, the Solari, gasped from a side holofeed. Motivated? One whispered. No, no, they're smiling again. This is how it starts. Across the world, military forces prepared for the worst, though most citizens remained glued to screens, narrating events like enthusiastic sport commentators. American late-night hosts suddenly switched to emergency broadcasts, where they joked nervously about alien design choices. A barber in Texas insisted the Zurati ships resembled ugly steel boots. Children pretended to communicate with aliens using walkie-talkies. The atmosphere felt surreal, humorous, terrifying, and strangely human. Mara turned away from the projection momentarily, lowering her voice. Status? She asked Ruiz. Defense network online. Orbital shields warming. Civilian reaction, unpredictable. As always, she replied with affectionate exasperation. She thought briefly of her father, who used to say, humans don't crumble under threat, Mara. We improvise. She hoped he was right again. Her crew's trust in her felt like a weight and a promise, one she intended to uphold. The Zurati speaker interrupted the silence with a roar. Your defiance guarantees your destruction. Mara nodded sympathetically. I understand your frustration. Conflict is exhausting. But since you initiated a hostile ultimatum, we are obligated to respond. Thoughtful diplomacy aside. Her voice softened almost apologetically. We will attack at dawn. The phrase shouldn't have sounded poetic, yet it settled through the council chamber like a prophecy. Panic erupted among the alien delegates. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others urged retreat. A Krullik warlord muttered. They declare war as gently as offering tea. A Varnathi scribe whispered. I fear the gentle ones most. The Solari elder simply closed his many eyes and said, It begins. For a heartbeat, Mara considered letting them continue their frantic debate. But time mattered. Humanity needed clarity and resolve. She leaned forward again. Before we proceed, she said gently, a friendly reminder, humans do not fear conflict. We adapt. We learn. We survive. Sometimes we even flourish. She shrugged lightly, as if discussing gardening rather than intergalactic war. We're complicated that way. Ruiz stared at her. Harper swallowed hard. The technician whispered, Is she smiling more? Mara felt the familiar shift inside her, like a door closing softly. Politeness remained on her face, but something colder moved beneath her voice. Prepare your defenses, she said to the council. We'll see you soon. The projection vanished. The council erupted into chaos. Earth's war room fell into a steadier silence. Mara picked up her mug, inhaled the last trace of warmth and sighed. I really hoped they wouldn't choose this path. Ruiz asked. Do you think they understand what you meant? Mara gave a small, thoughtful smile. Not yet. But they will. Outside, dawn neared, brushing the horizon with pale gold. The Zurati fleet adjusted its formation, unaware of the quiet machinery already stirring beneath Earth's surface. Mara Quinn watched the sky darken with alien silhouettes. Her voice lowered, a whisper meant only for her crew. Let's begin. None of them noticed the faint tremor in the sky, the first sign of something the aliens had not anticipated, something Mara had not mentioned at all. Not yet. The Zurati expected fear. They waited for Earth's trembling reply, for pleas of mercy, for diplomatic apologies wrapped in desperation. Instead, they received silence, calculated, intentional, unnerving silence. Across the Empire, scholars, strategists, and warlords argued furiously over what it meant. Had humans fallen into shock? Were they preparing feudal resistance? Or worse, were they planning something? The Zurati speaker paced the length of his obsidian chamber, mandibles clacking in restrained agitation. They rejected our ultimatum, he hissed. No fear. No hesitation. They said they will attack. The council murmured, exchanging uneasy glances. The Varnathi diplomat trembled. Perhaps they misunderstood. humans are prone to emotional impulsivity. The Solari elder shook his pale, luminous head. No. They understood perfectly. They always do. In orbit above Earth, Zurati battleships shifted into aggressive formation, but every scan returned the same bewildering results. No panic, no chaotic mobilization, no transmissions of fear. Instead, the humans broadcast soft, upbeat civilian chatter. Someone on Earth was discussing breakfast choices. A child was singing. A man somewhere in Chicago loudly declared he could take one of those ships with a baseball bat. The Empire's tactical systems flagged the phrase as a credible threat, until an analyst reluctantly explained what a baseball bat was. Meanwhile, on the UEDN flagship Resolute, Captain Mara Quinn stood before the tactical display, her posture calm, her expression one of quiet contemplation rather than exhilaration. She surveyed the holographic projection of the Zurati fleet, a glittering wall of weapons pointed directly at her home. Harper approached with hesitance. "Ma'am, the Zurati are repositioning. They may strike early." Mara tapped her mug lightly against her palm. "That would be inconvenient," she said. "Dawn is still 12 minutes away." Ruiz exhaled sharply. "Captain, maybe we should." Mara lifted one finger, the gesture gentle yet authoritative. "We proceed as planned." Her voice was steady, but Harper noticed a shift beneath it, a tightening of her focus, a sharpening of some hidden intent. She never explained her plans fully. She never needed to. Her crew trusted her not because she promised safety, but because she made every danger feel navigable. As the horizon brightened with early sunlight, Earth's defensive satellites activated in synchronized spirals, forming a shimmering lattice across the sky. The Zurati fleet paused. The speaker narrowed his eyes. "What are they doing?" A strategist replied. "Their shields are primitive. Harmless." Another disagreed. "Their energy signatures are unpredictable." Unpredictable was the one word every empire feared when describing humans. At precisely 6 o'clock, Mara touched the command panel. "Begin," she said softly. A hum rose through the ship, vibrations spreading like a heartbeat awakening. The Resolute vanished from Earth's orbit in a burst of light, reappearing moments later at the edge of the Zurati formation. The alien council reeled back in shock. Impossible! Their ships cannot fold space with that precision. Mara's face appeared before them once more, serene as ever. "Good morning again," she said. "We'll make this brief." Human fighters swarmed like gleaming insects, weaving around Zurati destroyers with reckless confidence. They moved with intention, not random chaos, not brute force, but something in between that confused every alien algorithm. The Zurati attempted predictive targeting. Every shot missed. They tried lock-on systems. Humans disrupted them with bursts of static. They attempted psychological intimidation. Humans responded by blasting faint traces of American music across comm channels, mostly 80s rock and the occasional chorus of "Livin' on a Prayer," which no alien translator could interpret. To the Zurati, it sounded like war chanting from a species that should not have been capable of such audacity. Harper watched the screens in disbelief. "They're retreating." "Aye, Captain, the Zurati are actually backing up." Ruiz gasped. "I've never seen a fleet that size reverse." Mara didn't smile. Not yet. She studied the patterns of movement, the inconsistencies in their formation, the tremor in their decisions. "They're confused," she murmured. "Good. Confusion slows war." She tapped her console again. "Push forward on Vector 7. Light pressure only." Human ships advanced, not aggressively, but confidently, as though strolling into enemy territory with hands in pockets and a slight smirk. The psychological effect was devastating. Several lesser commanders panicked, firing prematurely at nothing. One destroyer collided with another. A Krullik warlord screamed. "Why do they move like that? Why are they smiling?" The speaker bellowed. "Hold the line. They are undisciplined. Primitive." Yet even he felt it, the subtle chill of something ancient and dangerous stirring within the human response. Mara finally allowed herself a faint smile. "Ruiz," she said softly, "broadcast our terms." Ruiz hesitated. Terms? At this stage? Yes. Her eyes remained on the Zurati flagship, watching shadows shift behind its energy shutters. They assumed we wanted war. Let's correct the misunderstanding. Ruiz sent the message. A single sentence. Polite, cordial, devastating. We respectfully request the Zurati Empire to consider immediate surrender, before this becomes unpleasant for all involved. The Zurati command chamber erupted. Some shouted for counterattack. Others insisted on retreat. A few demanded the humans' message be a mistranslation. But the Solari elder spoke over them all in a trembling whisper. They are offering mercy. That means they have options they have not yet used. The speaker slammed a claw against the table. Humans do not have the capacity to threaten an empire. The elder met his gaze with tragic pity. Then why, speaker, do they sound so calm? Back aboard the Resolute, Mara watched alien signatures wobble across the display. They're destabilizing, she murmured. Fear is spreading. Harper whispered. Are we really going to win this? No, Mara replied. We're going to survive this. Winning is optional. Living is not. Her words resonated deep in the command deck, a reminder that humanity had not asked for this war, but they were astonishingly good at preparing for it. The Zurati attempted a final gambit, charging their main cannon, a sphere of black energy capable of tearing through continents. Mara watched its charge build, her eyes narrowing slightly. And there it is, she said. Their desperation. Harper stiffened. Captain, do we deploy the shield? Not yet, Mara replied. Let them reveal their full hand first. The cannon fired. A beam of compressed annihilation tore through space, streaking toward the Resolute. Gasps filled the air. Harper's voice cracked. Captain! Mara lifted her hand calmly. Activate countermeasure Delta. The beam hit a rippling distortion before the Resolute, shattered into harmless spirals, and dissolved like mist in sunlight. Zurati engineers shrieked in disbelief. They bent the beam. How? What? Humans, watching from Earth, applauded as though they'd just witnessed a fireworks show. Mara turned back to the projection, her voice soft enough to be unsettling. You opened this conflict, she said gently. You set your terms. Now you must live with ours. But as she prepared to issue the next command, something unexpected happened. The Zurati flagship withdrew its weapons and sent a frantic, encrypted signal into deep space, beyond Allied territory, beyond Empire borders, toward a region marked forbidden even to them. Harper frowned. Who are they contacting? Ruiz's hands trembled. Captain, the signal is ancient. Predates their empire. Mara's expression shifted just slightly, the smallest flicker of concern cracking through her measured calm. Track it, she ordered. And prepare for what comes next. Because if the Zurati were reaching that far, they were more afraid than she thought. And fear, when pushed into a corner, could summon monsters older than war. The reply wasn't meant for humanity. But humanity was now in its path. And Mara Quinn felt the horizon of the conflict shift, darken, just as a new signature flickered onto their sensors, impossibly large and waking. The Zurati Empire did not understand fear until they discovered the transmission logs. Hundreds of encrypted human communications intercepted only after the battle had already begun. The speaker hovered over the holographic projections, mandibles twitching as each message unfolded like a slow, dreadful prophecy. This cannot be accurate, he rasped. The logs showed Earth predicting Zurati strategies weeks before they were even deployed. The Empire had not taken a single step in this conflict that humanity had not already prepared for. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in a chamber known to only 12 people, Captain Mara Quinn watched those same logs with a quiet, contemplative expression. Harper stood behind her, hands clasped tightly, trying to decipher the layers of planning he'd never realized existed. Ma'am, he whispered. All of this was orchestrated? Mara didn't turn. Every conflict, she said softly, begins long before the first shot. We simply did our homework. But Harper's voice trembled. We leaked false weaknesses? We let them believe we were disorganized. Mara finally faced him, her calm gaze steady. They came to our doorstep intent on domination. They studied our wars, our flaws, our unpredictability, yet they never studied our preparation. Humans survive because we adapt before danger arrives. They assumed we'd panic. Instead, we built a trap. The trap had begun with small, deliberate breadcrumbs, fabricated vulnerabilities leaked through channels the Zurati monitored obsessively. A false report claiming Earth's orbital defenses were outdated. A staged malfunction in long-range scanners. A rumor, carefully planted, suggesting human leadership was divided. The Zurati swallowed every lie, weaving them into a tapestry of overconfidence. Now that tapestry unraveled in their hands. On the Resolute, Ruiz reviewed the intercepted transmission with widening eyes. "Captain, some of these plans date back 5 years. Harper blinked. 5 years? But we weren't at war. Mara's expression softened with something almost like regret. But they were preparing to bring one to us. We saw the first signs, resource movements, fleet expansions, shifts in diplomatic tone. Patterns. War always begins in patterns. Harper exhaled shakily. You knew. I suspected, Mara corrected. So we planned for every version of the future they might create. Above them, the galaxy churned with confusion. Several alien species, watching from afar, scrambled to reinterpret everything they knew about humanity. The Varnathi historian trembled as he addressed his council. We believed humans were impulsive, chaotic. But this is calculation on a scale we didn't think they possessed. A Krullik warrior scratched his chin. So the smiles were part of a plan? The historian shuddered. Worse. They were genuine. The Zurati, desperate to regain control, launched a counter-analysis. Strategists pored over data, hunting for the moment humanity's trap began. They found it, year-old broadcasts subtly mocking Zurati posturing. Naval exercises arranged near neutral borders. Trade agreements whose timing nudged other species away from supporting the empire. Every move, every delay, every diplomatic gesture. Threads woven into a net the Zurati never saw until they were tangled in it. The speaker roared, slamming a claw through the hologram. They manipulated the galaxy. They manipulated us. But beneath his anger lay something colder, dread. On Earth, Mara reviewed the final phase of her operation with calm precision. Large portions of the galaxy still believed the Zurati were unstoppable. Humanity needed the conflict to end swiftly, not through annihilation, but through deterrence. If we crush them fully, Mara said, we create a vacuum that breeds more war. Harper frowned. So what do? We break their will, she answered. Not their bones. Her crew absorbed the weight of her strategy. It wasn't victory she sought, it was stability. She activated a secure console, revealing the program code named the Veil. Lines of data pulsed like a heartbeat on the screen. Harper stared. This is the last phase? Mara nodded. But we don't use it yet. The Zurati still believe they hold the larger threat. Let them cling to that illusion a little longer. The illusion didn't last. While scanning the Zurati communication hub, Ruiz froze. Captain, they're contacting something. Or someone. Signal is deep-tier frequency, older than Zurati coding. It's heading beyond mapped space. Mara's posture stiffened only slightly, but Harper caught the shift. Who could they be calling? He whispered. Anyone who might save them, Mara said quietly. Empires scream loudest when they bleed. Far across the stars, beyond the Zurati border, a forgotten transmitter flickered to life, a relic from an age of war older than both species. Its pulse rippled like a distant heartbeat. The Zurati speaker watched it activate with mingled hope and terror. Summon them, he ordered. If the humans built traps, his voice broke, then we require monsters. Back aboard the Resolute, Mara monitored the pulse readings. Ruiz adjusted the sensors. It's huge, he murmured. The signature is larger than the Zurati flagship, larger than their entire command cluster. Harper swallowed. We should brace for another enemy, But Mara's expression wasn't fearful. It was calculating. "No," she murmured. "They've awakened something desperate. And desperation makes even the mighty clumsy." She shifted her attention back to her console, opening archived files, ones detailing the earliest predictions of Zurati expansion. Records of ancient warnings humanity had quietly collected. Maps of sectors marked too dangerous for travel. Zones whispered about by traders and dismissed by scholars. "If they're calling to that region," she said softly, "then they've exhausted every modern ally. They're reaching into the past for salvation." Ruiz asked, "Do we have countermeasures?" Mara tapped her fingers lightly. "We have contingencies. But nothing yet deployed." Harper leaned closer. "Captain, did you plan for this too?" She breathed slowly, the weight of truth pressing on her shoulders. "I planned for them to panic," she said. "I didn't plan for them to dig up ghosts." On the Zurati flagship, alarms blared as the ancient signal pulsed stronger. The speaker watched as an enormous shadow appeared on long-range sensors, one so large it blotted out stars. His mandibles trembled. "They will help us," he whispered, voice frail. "They must." But his council members were not convinced. One murmured, "What if they do not serve us? What if they come for us instead?" The speaker hissed, "Then we turn their hunger toward Earth." Back on the Resolute, Mara stood at the center of the bridge. The shadow on her screen was growing. Harper's voice cracked. "Captain, what do we do now?" She stared at the incoming mass, her calm returning like a blade being sheathed. "We adjust," she said simply. "Humans always adjust." Yet even she felt a ripple of unease. Because a trap worked best when you understood your prey, but something else had entered the field. Something not prey, not predator, something older, hungrier, and drawn by the scent of war. And as the shadow finally resolved into a colossal shape gliding toward them, Mara Quinn understood one thing with perfect clarity. Her trap had worked. Too well. The colossal shape drifting toward the battle was unlike anything the Zurati, or humanity, had ever documented. It moved with ancient deliberation, its surface shifting like molten stone and starlight fused together. Even the void seemed to bend around it, swallowing sound that shouldn't exist in space. The Zurati speaker trembled as he watched it approach, his voice thin as silk stretched to breaking. "They answered," he whispered. "The old sovereign has awakened." On the Resolute, Mara Quinn watched the same shape glide into sensor range. The readings were so massive the ship's computers stuttered, recalculated, and nearly crashed. Harper stared, mouth open. "Captain, that thing is bigger than their entire fleet." Ruiz added, "Its energy signature is wrong. It's alive but not." Mara raised a hand. "Focus." Her eyes narrowed, analyzing its trajectory, observing how the Zurati ships shifted formation as if welcoming a god. "They've brought in something they don't understand," she murmured. "And now the galaxy will pay the price." The Zurati speaker hailed the sovereign with desperate reverence. "Ancient One," he cried, "restore our dominion. The humans have turned our war into ruin." But the sovereign did not answer. Its surface rippled, as though waking a memory older than empires. A low resonance thrummed through the fabric of space, vibrating bones and hulls, and the quiet oxygen molecules in Mara's lungs. Harper clutched his ears. "It's speaking." Mara shook her head. "Not to us." The resonance deepened. Several Zurati ships simply came apart, unraveling into dust as though erased from existence. The speaker screamed, "No! Stop! We called you for aid." But the sovereign continued forward, harvesting Zurati vessels like a silent tide reclaiming broken shells. Panic spread across the alien channels. "It's consuming us. Shut down the beacon. Retreat, retreat now." Humanity had been the threat yesterday. Now the Empire faced something far worse. Ruiz whispered, "Captain, if that thing reaches Earth..." Mara's voice sliced through fear like steel. "It won't." She straightened, the softness of her earlier smiles gone. "This ends now." Harper blinked, startled by the shift in her voice. Calm still, but with an edge honed by necessity. Mara Quinn had stopped being polite. She had stopped being patient. And when humanity stopped smiling, the galaxy trembled. "Bring up the veil system," she ordered. Ruiz hesitated. "Ma'am, using it at this range will trap everything. Even us." Mara met his gaze, her expression neither cold nor warm, simply resolute. The trap was never meant to be clean. Only effective. Harper swallowed. "Captain, most of Earth's command doesn't even know the veil exists." "They trusted me to protect them," she replied softly. "This is the cost." The Resolute shifted position, angling toward the Sovereign. As it moved, the last Zurati ships fled in fractured disarray, abandoning their speaker and his flagship. He stared at Mara's image as she appeared on his failing console. "You did this." He spat. "You lured us into a war we could not win." Mara's expression softened by the faintest degree. "I warned you not to come here with threats. And now the Sovereign will destroy everything." The speaker cried. Mara tilted her head. "Only if we let it." She cut the channel. The speaker's furious scream faded into static. The Resolute locked into position. The veil system hummed alive, soft at first, like a sigh expanding across the hull, then rising into a thrumming pulse that shimmered in the space around them. Light bent in strange, liquid shapes. Stars blurred. Ruiz's voice shook. "Activation at 30%, 50, 70. Captain. Once it stabilizes, nothing inside its radius escapes." "That's the point," she whispered. The Sovereign finally reacted. It shifted direction, a massive tendril of shimmering energy reaching toward the Resolute. The hull groaned under invisible weight. Warning lights flared. Harper yelled, "It's targeting us." Mara's voice was still steady, still measured. "Hold position. The veil needs another 12 seconds." The tendril touched the Resolute. Alarms screamed. The ship convulsed. Panels shattered. Ruiz was thrown against his console. Harper clung to the railing, shouting over the chaos. "Captain, we have to move." Mara stayed standing, gripping the command dais as the deck vibrated beneath her boots. "Hold," she breathed. "Just hold." The veil snapped open. Light exploded outward, silvery, silent, expanding like a blooming flower made of gravity. It wrapped around the Sovereign, swallowing its enormous form. It stretched further, consuming debris, shattered Zurati ships, the speaker's flagship, and the entire section of space where the battle had raged. For a moment, it looked almost beautiful. Almost gentle. Then everything inside the veil stopped moving. Harper stared, stunned. Is it contained?" Ruiz coughed, wiping blood from his forehead. "We caught it. But we're caught too." Mara exhaled, shoulders lowering for the first time. "We expected that." But the Sovereign wasn't defeated. Inside the shimmering boundary, its massive silhouette shifted, testing the invisible walls of its prison. The veil strained, rippling like fabric under claws. Harper's voice cracked. "Captain, it's pushing back." Mara stepped closer to the viewport, studying the ancient creature with unblinking determination. "It's powerful," she murmured. "But it's not omnipotent. The veil was designed for more than defense." Harper blinked. "Designed for what?" She turned slightly. "For isolation. For redirection." Ruiz frowned. "Redirection to where?" Mara answered with a quiet heaviness. "To the dark sector. A region no empire explores. A region no empire returns from." Harper felt his heart drop. "You're sending us with it?" Mara didn't look away from the veil. "For now. The veil must stabilize before we can disengage. If we release early, the Sovereign escapes and Earth dies." The ship vibrated again. The veil pulsed harder. The Sovereign roared, if the soundless ripple could be called a roar, and slammed against the barrier. The shockwave nearly shattered the bridge windows. Ruiz shouted, "Captain, the containment is weakening." Harper added, "We don't have minutes, maybe seconds." Mara took a slow breath. "Then we finish this quickly." She accessed the core controls, fingers flying across illuminated panels. Prepare Phase 2. If the veil cannot hold it here, we force the transition early. Ruiz's eyes widened. Captain, an early transition could tear the ship apart. Mara's reply was soft. Better our ship than our world. Harper's throat tightened. Ma'am, will Earth know what happened? Mara glanced at him, a rare flicker of warmth crossing her face. They'll know we made a choice. Humanity always remembers the ones who hold the line. The Sovereign struck the barrier again, harder. The veil cracked in fractal lightning. Ruiz shouted warnings. Harper braced himself. Mara placed her hand on the final control. The Sovereign's shadow loomed, stretching across the bridge like a devouring night. And with a single breath, steady, unwavering, Captain Mara Quinn whispered, "For Earth." Her hand pressed the command. The veil tore open into a vortex of blinding light, pulling the Resolute, the Sovereign, and the fractured battlefield toward the dark sector. And then everything went white.